you've messed around with this, and you have two sample songs up on Spotify. What did you feed it, and what did you think of the results?
So I've added two poems that I wrote, and I was surprised by one. It actually got the emotional subtext of the poem, and it actually was able to kind of rhyme it correctly, which to me was a surprise because before the early versions, for example, let's say you write a sonnet. Well, a sonnet has a very fixed meter, right? It's iambic, it's regular, it knows what the rhymes are, and so that it had an easy job with that. If you give it a poem that was not a sonnet, that was more free form, but still had rhymes, it had a harder time figuring out like, oh, I should rhyme line three with line five.
Hmm.
So it would kind of break the lyrics in the wrong place, and you'd be like, no, no, like I want it to rhyme these two words. It needs to emphasize that rhyme.
All right, welcome to Practical AI, everybody. My name's Jeff. I'm here with Peter Lynn. Practical AI is brought to you by Pocket AI. Pocket AI is a tool you can use to edit the weights of your model. With Pocket AI, you can prune over 60% of the weights of your model while increasing accuracy. Peter, I want to take a little break from the DeepSeek drama, which is continuing, just to hit a topic we've been wanting to hit for a couple weeks here, and that is AI and the world of music. Tell
Yeah.
us what you've noticed and what your experience is in music AI.
Yeah, so music AI has been around for a while, for a couple of years. And when they first started coming out, like around 2021, I went up to a couple of them and tried it out. And honestly, it was pretty terrible, right? You would give it lyrics or you would say, generate me a song, and it would kind of sound like music, or it would sound like really bad music, like you're on an elevator. Um, and oftentimes it wasn't really consistent, wasn't coherent. But now, right, 2025, they've gotten pretty good to the point where you can give it lyrics and it'll, if you tell it I want a romantic song, it'll actually build the tempo of the song so that it builds the emotional effect that you want, which is quite a bit further. And so a lot of that was because of models that Meta released and other people released, showing better ways to kind of train audio generation models.
How much does the improvement of just LLMs and NLP, how much does that have to do with the improvement of the songs in terms of interpreting your intent and stuff like that?
So it's quite different, right? Because when you sample a song, right? So normally, if you record a song in the old-fashioned way using analog, and you burn and you actually scratch onto a you know actual record, that's different than a digital song, which is sampled at a certain sampling rate. And then when you feed that to a model, right? Let's say a transform model, you're gonna take that whole entire stream of audio that's already been sampled, and you're gonna feed it into the model. And so now what the attention has to look at isn't just words, it's the actual changes in the actual audio signal. So I mean it's the same basic idea, but the data itself is different. But the actual neural network doesn't care. To it, it's just data.
Now, it might be helpful for us just to kind of back up a little bit and just talk about the different types of models. And because when we first talked about this, you said that it's gotten a lot better over the last 2 years. But if you look at the whole catalog of music that we have access to, um, 2 years ago, we probably had at least 99% of the same catalog of data, right? It's not like we've created 50% more music in the last 2 years when you consider all the music that's been digitized going back into time, Bach and rock and roll and everything. So how was that data, all that big catalog of data, first used in the foundational models, and then what's different from the foundational models or the Gen AI models? Walk us through kind of building the solution as you step back,
Right.
almost as like an architect.
Right. So basically, the first step to any machine learning project is you just train the model on the data itself. So that's the foundation, right? where it recognizes the patterns, all the kind of the obvious and also the subconscious patterns that's in the data itself. So in the case of English, it's the grammar, it's the vocabulary, it's how in German or English you form a sentence. And then so in music then it's how does music build to have a tempo, to have tension and release? How does the chorus play into the structure of the song? How does rhymes play into the structure of a 4/4 song if you're playing rock? If you're playing jazz and you've got some weird like 8/12 or some other weird signature, how does that play into the structure of the song? Right? And so the foundation model is you just take the data, the music, and you just feed it through. And so it's going to figure out like, okay, here are all these patterns. Here's what rock does. Here's what pop does. And it's going to categorize all those patterns. Then the next step is you add layers to do the generative part. But at first, it'll just generate whatever it wants to generate. And so that's the next step is refinement. You tell it, okay, here's some input. Here's a prompt. Give me a song that's like Beatles. Might be an example. It generates something, and then some human now has to then grade that and decide, okay, that was actually a good song or it was actually a terrible song.
Okay. How do before generative AI, how were foundational models used?
So before generative AI, it was just for like recognizing things. So the most common one is you have a picture and you want to figure out like, okay, what dress is this? Is it one from Target or from Walmart? Right. So
Okay.
these
So anything from like search to diagnostics to recognition
right.
to stuff like that, right?
Yeah. So it's called
Okay.
object
And then
segmentation.
say it again, sorry.
Called object segmentation.
Okay. And then, but that's more than just computer vision, right? It's anything, right? It's same thing in language,
Yeah.
right?
Right. Yep. It's mostly images, but yeah, it can be applied to other things.
Okay. So then you get this generative idea, right? And that is, okay, great. It recognized or read all the books on the planet, recognized all the patterns, but now I want it to write a book, right?
Right.
And
Yep.
that's the generative part. And they essentially did that by leaving out sections of the sentence and had to try to guess what it would be, and then people would grade that, right?
Yep.
And and see if it was doing a good job creating Shakespeare. But then you get into the refinement part, and that's the fine tuning, it's the censorship,
Yep.
right? It's
Right.
the guidance. So stepping back into the music space then, so in the first iteration of this, then they had all the data, they dumped it in, but they hadn't really gotten into the refinement or maybe even a good version of the Gen AI part. Is that what you're saying?
No, so I mean, people have known that you have to do refinement, right? So really, the improvement is it's really the algorithms for how you do the refinement, how you do the training, so that it pulls out more information,
Got it. So this
right?
is the art and
Example,
science merge.
right? Because like if you were to sample, so let's say you take a MP3, and let's say MP3, you can go 44 kilohertz, or you can go like really high quality audio, which is like over 100 kilohertz. But let's say you don't want to do that because it's kind of expensive. So you go, I'm going to only sample 10,000 kilohertz instead of 44,000. Well, you're only getting a quarter of the information, right? And so, yeah, it's more efficient and you save money on cloud fees and on training time, but it's not getting as much information, it's not as rich,
Yeah.
right? And so it's always a balance between how much data do you feed it, how long do you train it? Because I mean, yeah, you could train the model, the foundation model, for 2 years, but is that going to give you better result than training it for 12 months?
Good. So you've messed around with this and you have two sample songs up on Spotify just to try it,
Just for
right?
fun. Yeah, just
Yeah,
for
just
like
for fun. What did you feed it and what did you think of the results?
so I've added two poems that I wrote, and I was surprised by one. It actually got the emotional subtext of the poem, and it actually was able to kind of rhyme it correctly, which to me was a surprise because before the early versions, they were actually like if you didn't write your poem with, for example, let's say you write a sonnet, well, sonnet has a very fixed meter, right? It's iambic, it's regular, it knows what the rhymes are, and so that it had an easy job with that. He gave it a poem that was not a sonnet, that was more free form, but still had rhymes. It had a harder time figuring out like, oh, I should rhyme line 3 with line 5.
Hmm.
So it would kind of break the lyrics in the wrong place, and you'd be like, no, no, like I want it to rhyme these two words. It needs to emphasize that rhyme.
Yeah.
Whereas now it does. So now it actually can recognize, oh, okay, you meant to rhyme line 1 on line 4 in the first verse. You meant to rhyme line 3 and 4 in the second verse. You meant to rhyme lines 2 and 4 in the third verse, and the chorus has this. And so then it would structure the song, and it would stretch certain words out or speed up certain words in the song so that it actually emphasize the rhyme.
Got it. Well, we'll put both those songs in the comment box, and then you guys can listen to them for yourself. Um, I liked both. One I thought was actually really catchy, and I was pretty impressed with it.
Yeah.
I'm more of a music guy than I am a poem guy, so I got to admit I didn't really listen to the words. But that one was, I could have listened to that multiple times for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. It's come a long way.
Yeah, it's come a long way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yep.
good, Peter. It's good to hear a little something different. Get away from DeepSeek and get into music for a little bit. We will be here again next week with another topic. Remember, you can catch us on Spotify if you want to. We will see you again soon. Take care, everybody.